A lot of woodworkers think that dovetail drawers like this one are advanced cabinet making. I mean, they've got half-blind dovetails in the front, through dovetails in the back, and a bottom that's sitting in a groove all the way around. I admit, these things seem advanced, but regular, everyday furniture makers and country carpenters have been making dovetail drawers for hundreds of years. You know Joey, who lives down by the mill? Joey makes dovetail drawers, and he's an idiot. And there's a million easy ways to make a drawer, but if you avoid the 18th century dovetailed version, you're missing out on a brilliant design. These half-blind dovetails in the front give you a super sturdy joint that's invisible and give you a clean look. And you can put all your best wood on display right here, while the drawer also gives you a good place to hide that cheap wood that you need to get rid of. And on top of that, it also has a brilliant system for using a solid wood bottom that allows for seasonal movement but is still easy to install. So stop hiding from the dovetail drawer and instead, let's just jump in. For this project, you have to choose your wood carefully. I've got a thick piece of cherry for the front. It's a little over an inch thick, which is going to make those half-blind dovetails easier and stronger. Next, the sides are much thinner to keep weight down. I'm using walnut for contrast against the cherry, but poplar would be more common. And the back can be anything at all. I've got some pretty garbage white pine, and I'm going to use that. The front corners of the drawer use half-blind dovetails. They're called that because you can only see them from one side and they don't come through the front. That means we need a baseline around 3/16 of an inch from the front of the drawer. The other baseline is the thickness of my sideboards, and I mark that with a knife against the actual stock, and then I use a square to knife that baseline. Then I reset my gauge for the material below that 3/16 baseline on the drawer front because that's the distance the sides will be set into the drawer front. And I mark that distance onto both faces of my drawer fronts. With the drawer side in the vise, I start laying out my tails. This is where a lot of people get fancy with lots of tails and super tiny pins, but you don't have to. A friend of mine has a nice handmade end table with a beautiful drawer, and the layout there is dead simple. 2 big tails with a medium-sized pin between them, and at the corners, 2 big half pins. That extra material on the ends will make the joint sturdy and hard to mess up. I'm using the exact same layout for my drawer, and I'm copying it from one side to the other to save time. And you know, a lot of people want to learn how to cut dovetails, but where did dovetails come from? Who invented them, and why? What problem were they trying to solve? Well, we're going to answer all of those questions in the next episode of The Secret History of Wood. It's our hit series where we figure out where the techniques and traditions of woodworking came from and how furniture and architecture have shaped human history. The story of dovetails is bigger and more complicated than you would ever expect. So make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell notification so you don't miss the next episode of The Secret History of Wood. With the dovetail layout done, I'll saw down my lines, cut off my half pins at the ends, and use my turning saw to cut out most of the waste on that single pin in the middle. Then it's just a bit of chiseling down to my baseline, and my drawer sides are done. I'm ready to work on the drawer face. If you've cut basic through dovetails, this part is familiar. You place the sides with the tails on the drawer front. The front is the pin board. Then you trace your layout. The only difference is that 3/16 baseline. You just set your tails against that line, not flush with the front of the board. Then carry your lines down the front and you're ready to saw. Because these dovetails are half-blind, you can't just saw straight through like you would with standard dovetails. You have to stop sawing at your baselines. Except on the drawer inside face, you can saw past your baselines a bit. This deepens the saw cut and makes waste removal faster, but you will get a visible saw cut on the inside of your drawer. This is actually period practice, and we can even see this oversawing on the inside of my friend's drawer. No one ever looks at the inside of a drawer face anyway, so you can saw even further if you like. With the sawing done, we're going to chop out the waste, and that's probably easiest with a stop screwed to the bench and a plain old C-clamp to hold things in place. You can't saw the waste out. You have to do it all with a chisel. I'm using a narrow chisel and striking it firmly to chop down, and then I come in from the end grain to split out the waste. I chopped pretty deeply, so I can remove 2 layers of waste before I go back to chopping. Early in the process, you can be aggressive. There's a lot of wood to remove, and we don't want to be here all day. And then you're just repeating that. Chop down to free up some waste, and then split in from the end. As I get closer to my baselines, I slow way down. If I break through onto the face of the drawer, I will ruin this part. So I'm being careful. Now, this part is really important. So far, I've done all of my chopping well away from my baseline on the face of the board. Now, I need to trim back that last bit of waste to get a clean line. I've switched to a broader chisel, so I can't chop as deeply, but it's easier to drop that chisel right into my baseline and chop away the last bit of waste, giving me a clean and straight line on the inside of the joint. And you do have to get down in those corners and get out any waste that might stop the joint from coming together. I should mention that there are a bunch of new techniques for cutting half-blind dovetails. All sorts of cool tricks like hammering in a card scraper or using specialized tools. In this video, I'm showing you a simple, historically accurate approach with basic tools, but this is your project and you can do it any way you want. For my drawer, it's assembly time, and you can help your joints come together cleanly by beveling the corners on the inside of the tails. Double check that you're doing the inside because this will look terrible if it's on the outside. And my joint does come together cleanly. There's a small gap on that right shoulder, but that's nothing I can't fix. Now, the drawer bottom is going to sit in a groove on the front and the sides, and since we've already done the joinery that connects the front and the sides, now is the perfect time to plow that groove. I'll set one of my sideboards against my planing stop and use my iron dog to hold it in place. All the work holding marks will be hidden inside the joint, so this setup is no problem. Now, I'll plow a 1/4 inch groove with my plow plane. I'm plowing the groove after the dovetailing, so I can be sure the groove is hidden in that tail and it won't be visible at the drawer front. And I need to make the same groove across the inside of the drawer front, but my planing stop would leave visible marks there, so I'm holding the front against my stop block and using a C-clamp to hold it down. If you've got a tail vise, you can use that, but if you don't have one, the workarounds are easy. And again, that groove is hidden right inside that tail socket where no one will see it. At the back of the drawer, we have simple through dovetails, which are much faster and easier to cut, but the layout matters a lot. Let's go to my friend's drawer for a period example. This joint is a little weird. You've got a single big tail in the middle with a pin on either side and a half tail on each end. And this layout lets you cut away the bottom of the back to slide in that drawer bottom. And you can also cut away the top of the back so it won't rub on the inside of the case. With this layout, you can remove a lot of that backboard and still have a solid joint in the middle. But you have to really understand how that backboard works before you can make the joint. But once you get it, the layout is easy, and after those half-blind dovetails, these are a breeze, especially since no one is going to see them anyway. They just need to hold together. And with the drawer temporarily assembled, I can mark above my groove and rip off a strip. That's going to give me access for installing the drawer bottom, and I'm going to plane away a bit of the top so it doesn't rub on the case. And since my drawer is looking tight and solid, I can make the bottom. Period drawers had single-piece bottoms, but good luck finding boards that wide. So I glued some scraps to the widest board I had in the shop. The stock has a lot of crown, but I also want a thinner bottom, so planing it flat solved both problems at once. And if we look at my friend's drawer one last time, we can see how the bottom has been beveled to fit into that groove. My bottom board is thicker than the example, so I need to do a bit more beveling. You just need it to barely fit in that groove and you'll get a nice connection. The underside of the drawer bottom is another place folks don't look, so you can leave the rough finish from the foreplane. And with that done, I can glue up. My dovetails aren't perfect, but they're tight enough that I don't need any clamps. I just put glue in all the joints, knock it together, and let it dry overnight. The next day, I'll do the final cleanup. Holding the drawer with this cheap vise takes a little ingenuity, but once it's in there, I can plane the corner joints flush with the drawer sides. It's important to plane in from each end, so your strokes meet in the middle. This keeps those corner joints from breaking out. If planing from two directions gives you an inconsistent surface, like I'm getting here, then a little bit of scraping or sanding will get the side looking nice again. The important thing is those half-blind dovetails. These will be seen, so the cleanup phase is your last chance to tidy them up. I've got the bottom fitting snug, but I can still push it home with hand pressure, and it's nice to see it fit cleanly into all three grooves. It's standard to leave a little bit sticking out the back. It gives you something to grab if you ever need to get the bottom out for repair. And speaking of that, it's common to secure that bottom with a single nail into the drawer back. That nail will flex with seasonal movement and keep the bottom from sliding around if it ever gets loose in the groove. Now I'm sure you're wondering, hey Rex, what piece of furniture is this new drawer going to go into? And the truth is, there is no piece of furniture. I built the drawer by itself because drawers are surprisingly important to the history of dovetails. Everything in this video is just getting ready for the next episode of The Secret History of Wood, and all will be revealed. Not only did I make this drawer, I also made an earlier Jacobean-style drawer. Isn't that exciting? Read With Saw, Plane, and Chisel by Zach Dillinger. It is one of my favorite woodworking books. Zach builds a bunch of period furniture pieces using strictly historical techniques, and it is a fascinating read. You can learn a lot about drawer construction just from reading the first couple of chapters. We'll see you next time for the next episode of The Secret History of Wood. Thanks for watching.